Well, Happy New Year, everybody. Did you miss us? I hope you did. This Sunday, the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki is back, and we have uh, a couple of wonderful guests. We'll talk to them in just a second, but Peggy and I will be back talking about some environmental and gardening stories that are coming across the transom or through the transom, I guess. And Rick DeMaio, our meteorologist, is also back. I'm sure you missed him. And we had our first recorded snow of the season. Yikes, it took a long time. Yes, the weather's crazy. In fact, the people who are on the show, I'm going to bring them in right now because they can attest to weather being crazy. That's Mary Kate Mackey. Um, or is it, you do pronounce it Mackey, right?
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
and Kathleen and Brenzel, and they are the co-authors of The Healthy Garden. There's the book, folks. Pull it back so you can see it. Simple Steps for a Greener World. We're so excited to start the new year by talking about gardening. But Mary Kate, you were telling me that out in the Pacific Northwest where you live, it's been crazy.
We had incredible snowstorm. We had about a foot where I live, and then followed it with a windstorm that knocked out the power for 17 hours. So we're just happy to have electricity at this point.
That's just crazy. And of course, as I mentioned, we didn't even have snow until a couple of days ago. And that's nutty too here in the Midwest.
Oh, yeah.
Uh, but it does affect your gardening, doesn't it? Looking out at your yard, it's probably, is it snow covered? Do you have snow or have you gone past
I
that?
still have remnants of snow at
Oh,
this point. Yeah,
and
just remnant.
and is that usual for where you live?
It turns out I looked on my Facebook pictures, and it turns out almost every year for the past few years we've had snow around New Year's.
Wow.
So I guess it's more usual than I think.
And that's in Oregon, right?
Yes, I'm outside Eugene, Oregon,
Okay.
but I am at about 1,100 feet. So what'll rain in the
Ah,
valley, we get snow up here.
all
Yeah.
right. And Kathleen, where do you live?
I live in Northern California, and we have had a lot of rain. No snow like Mary Kate, but it's been very wet. And we need the rain because we're coming out of a drought.
Absolutely. And they keep talking about these atmospheric rivers that are coming right into California. That's been nutty too. So here we are. We're in all of us dealing with odd weather. Our meteorologist Rick DeMaio calls it uh, climate variability. That's the phrase he likes to use to indicate that there are changes happening in our world. But we have to adapt. And we'll get to some of that on Sunday, but basically, let's start with the healthy garden, simple steps for a greener world, because you can't change the weather, but you can adapt to it, can't you, Mary Kate?
Yes, I noticed in the snow two things. One was the conifers, which are used to growing in much colder climates. They did incredibly well, and they shed their snow fairly well. Now we don't have those chilling winds like you do in the Midwest, where people actually wrap them, but they simply survived better. And the other one was things that were well pruned, that were pruned for being tighter and sort of more together. They did much better in the snow too.
Ah, glad to hear that. Well, Kathleen, um, one of the things I love about your book, you are preaching to the choir here because what I've been telling people for 25 years in doing this is that you can make a difference in your backyard. And that's one of the points you make in the book. How do you make that point, Kathleen?
Well, it really is important to grow natives, to look around where you live, and to grow plants that are appropriate for your region, but to also consider the other, endangered birds and other critters that are losing habitat day after day. And they find respite in gardens that have things that nuts and seeds and so forth, shelter. water that they can use to survive as well. So this is really the gardener's role, working with nature to create the right space for both them and for wildlife and for the natural world.
Yeah, and we're at a time where there are such profound changes in the world. People say, well, how can I make a difference? Well, if everybody is making a difference, if everybody's stepping up and paying attention to their own area, I love the idea, Kathleen, as you just alluded to, plant what's in your area, which is, and you don't have to get nutty about it, but you should think about it. You should focus on that if you possibly can. Now, the two of you are not giving your pearls here, although you are. There are plenty of your pearls in there, but you're going to your fellow gardeners. This is a book that looks at gardens from around the country, and you talk to various gardeners, some of whom have been
Yeah.
on our show. Why did you take this approach, Mary Kate?
Well, I actually, when we started to think about this book together, Kathleen approached me and said, I want to do a book about healthy gardens. And I was already in the process of doing one called The Gathering of Gardeners, because I wanted to give what I think is so great about our plant community is that it is a community. If you garden, you don't have to garden alone. There are so many wonderful people out there, and good solid advice from real experts, not just sort of, put mothballs in your garden or something awful. But that I wanted to do that. So basically, we combined those two ideas so that the healthy garden, it's like we're saying in the healthy garden, have a diversity of plant material. Well, also have a diversity of people and opinions, and because that strengthens all of us.
All right. And before we go, I'm going to sucker punch you here, Kathleen, because you're a gardening professional. You've been doing this a long time. You can see in the background there, you can see all the places you've worked, like Sunset. And I'm going to ask you, did you, were you surprised by anything in talking to any of the gardeners for this book?
I wasn't really surprised because the gardeners we talked to are professionals, and they were all seeing some of the same things we are seeing, which is we are in a wonderful place to make a difference in the world. But there were things that we learned from some professionals that weren't necessarily garden professionals, such as physicians, naturopaths, people who deal with stressed out individuals day after day. And their number one cure that they recommended was get out into nature and leave your phone indoors.
Mm.
And I thought, so we kind of touch on really what a garden does to humanity as well.
Well, this is just a preview of what we're going to be talking about on Sunday. I'm so excited to have both of you on the show to talk about the Healthy Garden, Simple Steps for a Greener World. We'll have all those links at MikeNovak.net. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube page. We're on from 9 a.m. to 11 live streaming every Sunday morning. And Kathleen and Mary Kate, I'm so looking forward to it.
Oh, we are too.
We are too. Thank you.
See you then.